I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. When I married Jessica 5 years ago, I genuinely believed we'd be one of those couples who made it through everything hand in hand. We had our fair share of ups and downs, but it always felt like we were on the same team, or so I thought. For a while, things seemed pretty normal. We'd share dinners, binge-watch shows, and talk about our future. But slowly, I started noticing little things. Jessica was spending more time at the gym, claiming she needed to get back to the old me. Her phone was always glued to her hand, and she'd get defensive if I asked who she was texting. The late nights out with friends became more frequent, and she always had an excuse ready. Oh, it was just a last-minute happy hour after work, or I promised my girlfriends I'd help them with a project. I wanted to trust her, but the nagging feeling in my gut told me something was off. One night I got home late from work. I walked in and the house felt eerily quiet. Jessica's car was in the driveway, but there was no sign of her. I figured she was upstairs, probably glued to her phone or watching Netflix. As I walked through the house, I spotted her phone on the kitchen counter. I know, going through her phone is a breach of trust, but I wasn't thinking clearly. That feeling in my gut had grown louder, and I had to know what was happening. I picked up her phone, and as soon as I unlocked it, I found a string of text messages that shattered my world. They weren't just innocuous chats, they were flirty and intimate, filled with emojis and inside jokes that I didn't understand. One message in particular stood out. "Can't wait to see you tonight, you're everything I want." My heart raced as I read it over and over. I felt sick, like the floor had dropped out from under me. In that moment I knew she was cheating on me. It hit me like a freight train. I dropped her phone back on the counter, my mind racing. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I could almost hear it echoing in the silence of the house. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to wake her up from whatever fantasy she was living in. But I also felt paralyzed, stuck in this horrifying reality that I never thought I'd have to face. When Jessica finally came downstairs, I tried to act normal, but I could feel the tension in the air. I was on the verge of exploding, and all I could think about was how to confront her. I wanted the truth, but I didn't want to give her any opportunity to spin a story. So I kept my mouth shut, waiting for the right moment. The opportunity came the next morning. We were sitting at the breakfast table and I was barely able to look at her. I could see her scrolling through her phone, a slight smirk on her face. It made me furious. How could she act like everything was fine while I was drowning in betrayal? In that moment, I decided to confront her. "Jessica," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "we need to talk." She looked up, her expression shifting from casual to curious in an instant. I took a deep breath and decided to cut to the chase. I laid it all out there, mentioning the texts I'd seen, her late-night outings, everything. Her reaction was anything but remorseful. At first, she laughed it off, claiming I was being paranoid. She rolled her eyes, dismissing my pain like it was a joke. "You know I have a life outside of you, right?" she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. I was stunned. It was like she was putting on a performance, trying desperately to deflect any responsibility. She had the audacity to say, "You're just jealous I have friends." The anger inside me simmered. I had never seen this side of her before. It was as if she had turned into a stranger overnight. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone unrecognizable. I felt trapped in a nightmare, and every plea I made for honesty only pushed her further away. As we sat there, the weight of her betrayal hung heavy between us. I felt like a fool, desperately trying to salvage a relationship that had already crumbled. I wanted to scream, to make her understand how deeply she had hurt me. But instead, I sat in silence, feeling the cracks in our marriage widen. The emotional impact of that moment hit me hard. I went from shock to anger, then to deep sadness. I couldn't believe that the woman I had built my life with could betray me like this. I lost my appetite, my sleep, and for days, I felt like I was just going through the motions of life without truly living. I spent nights replaying every moment we'd shared, every memory tainted by the realization that it was all built on lies. The images of her with someone else haunted me. I couldn't escape the feeling of betrayal, and the question lingered in my mind: how could this happen to us? As I tried to wrap my head around everything, I realized I had a decision to make. I could either try to salvage the marriage or walk away. But was it worth trying to fix something that was already broken? The thought tore at me, but I had to face the truth. I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, staring at the paths ahead, each one leading to a different version of my life. The choice weighed heavily on me as I tried to contemplate what came. Next, I wasn't sure what I wanted anymore. Did I want to fight for my marriage or let it go? Days turned into weeks, and my mind was in a constant state of turmoil. Jessica and I were living like strangers under the same roof, an awkward silence filling the spaces where laughter and love used to reign. I felt trapped in a surreal nightmare where the woman I once adored had become a ghost, an imposter wearing her skin. Every interaction was laced with tension, every word a potential trigger for another argument. I spent countless hours talking to friends, trying to piece together my emotions. Some told me to confront her again, to demand answers. Others suggested I take some time apart to think. The advice ran the gamut from practical to wildly emotional. "You deserve better, man," one friend said, slapping me on the back. "You shouldn't stand for this." But how do you just walk away from years of shared dreams and memories? It felt impossible. One Friday night, Jessica came home late again, reeking of perfume and alcohol. I was sitting on the couch, my heart racing as I tried to maintain my composure. She walked in with a casual air, tossing her keys on the table as if nothing had happened. "Hey babe, had a great time with the girls," she chirped, her voice bright, almost too bright. I knew better than to believe her facade. Something inside me cracked, and just like that I snapped. "Do you think I'm stupid?" I blurted out, unable to hold back the anger any longer. Her eyes widened in surprise, and for a brief moment I saw a flicker of fear, like a deer caught in headlights. "What are you talking about?" she replied defensively, crossing her arms. The tone in her voice shifted, revealing the irritation simmering beneath her cheerful mask. "I saw the text, Jessica. I wasn't born yesterday. You think I don't notice when you come home smelling like someone else's cologne?" My heart was pounding, and I felt the heat rising in my cheeks. I had her cornered, and it felt both exhilarating and terrifying. She opened her mouth, perhaps to deny it again, but then she paused, a look of annoyance crossing her face. "You're being ridiculous. Can't a woman have fun without being interrogated?" "Fun? Is that what you call it?" I shot back, my voice rising. I couldn't believe her audacity. It was like she was gaslighting me, trying to turn the tables. I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. "You're cheating on me and you call it fun." She let out a huff, rolling her eyes. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. I'm not cheating. I'm just living my life." Her words struck me like a slap to the face. It was as if she was standing there, completely unbothered by the wreckage of our marriage. In that moment, the anger morphed into something darker, deep sadness mixed with a sense of betrayal that was almost unbearable. I felt like I was watching a poorly directed play, and I was the only one who could see the cracks in the script. "You're lying, Jess. I can't keep doing this," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Doing what? You think you can just accuse me without any proof?" She shot back, her voice rising to match mine. "You're acting like a jealous child. Get over yourself." Her response struck a nerve. I felt a wave of hopelessness crash over me. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about how she saw me, how she didn't see me. I was fighting for our relationship while she dismissed my pain with a wave of her hand. It dawned on me that I was holding on to a sinking ship, and the waters were rising fast. As I stared into her eyes, I saw not the woman I loved, but a stranger, someone completely different. I realized then that I had to make a choice. My heart was tired of the fight. I had endured the sleepless nights, the endless debates with myself, the aching realization that love could turn bitter in an instant. The decision took root deep within me. I couldn't stay in a marriage built on deception and lies. I deserved someone who valued me, someone who would fight for us rather than against me. My head was spinning with thoughts, but one thing became clear. I couldn't give her the power to break me anymore. That night, I decided I was going to confront her one last time. I wanted to lay everything on the table and make it clear that I wouldn't play the role of the fool any longer. No more excuses, no more pretending. I wanted her to know that if we were going to move forward, it had to be on a foundation of honesty. As the sun rose the next morning, I felt a sense of determination fill me. I would reclaim my life, my happiness. I knew the conversation wouldn't be easy, but I couldn't keep letting her dictate the terms of our relationship. I was ready to stand my ground, ready to fight for my dignity. "Jessica, we need to talk," I said firmly when I saw her that morning. She looked at me, raising an eyebrow but not saying a word. I could feel the tension in the air, and I knew this would be the moment that would change everything. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever lay ahead. I had no idea how it would all unfold, but I was ready to face the truth, whatever it may be. Sitting across from Jessica at the breakfast table, the atmosphere felt electric with unspoken words. I could feel my heart racing as I braced myself for the confrontation. The air was thick with tension, and I had to fight the urge to back down. This was it. I had to find my voice and speak my truth no matter the outcome. "Jessica," I started, trying to keep my tone steady. "I can't ignore what's been happening between us. The late nights, the texts, it's tearing me apart." I watched her carefully for any signs of remorse, but her expression remained indifferent, her face a mask of irritation. "Oh, please," she scoffed, folding her arms. "Here we go again with your dramatics. You're so paranoid it's embarrassing." "Paranoid?" I shot back, feeling the heat rise in my chest. "I'm not paranoid, I'm hurt. You're out all night and I find messages that suggest you're with someone else. How am I supposed to feel?" She leaned back in her chair, a smug smile creeping onto her lips. "So, what's your point? Are you going to throw a tantrum? You can't just accuse me without proof. You don't even know what you're talking about." Her dismissive attitude fueled my anger. I felt my fists clench as I struggled to keep my composure. "This isn't about throwing accusations, this is about trust. You've broken that trust and you don't even care." "Trust? You're acting like I've committed a crime," she retorted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I can have friends, I can have fun, and you don't get to dictate my life. You're acting like a possessive boyfriend, not a husband." The words stung like a slap. I had always supported her independence, but now it felt like she was using it to justify her betrayal. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "I just want honesty, Jessica. I want to know if you're with someone else. Just tell me the truth." She hesitated for a moment, her eyes darting away, but then she quickly regained her composure. "You really think I'd cheat on you? You're seriously delusional if you think that. Maybe I'm just trying to live my life without you smothering me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The disconnect between us was staggering. "So that's it. I'm just smothering you. You can't even acknowledge the hurt you've caused." "Maybe if you weren't so needy, I wouldn't have to go out all the time," she snapped, her voice rising. It was as if she was deflecting all accountability onto me, and I felt my world shrinking around me. I was losing her, and the realization hit me like a brick. The conversation spiraled into a shouting match, with both of us trading accusations and insults. It was as if I was watching my marriage unravel in real time. I tried to keep focused on the facts, the texts, the late nights, the feeling that I was losing the woman I loved. But with every word she twisted it back on me, framing me as the villain in our story. Eventually, I threw my hands up in frustration. "You know what? I can't keep doing this. I deserve better than a marriage built on lies and excuses. If you can't even admit what's happening, then maybe we need to consider separating." Jessica's expression shifted. For the first time, I saw something that resembled fear in her eyes. "You wouldn't actually do that," she said, her voice wavering. "You love me too much." I felt a pang of sadness at her words. Love isn't enough when there's no trust left. I can't keep pretending everything's fine while you're running around behind my back. If you want to play games, then I don't want to be part of this anymore." I stood up, feeling a rush of adrenaline mixed with despair. Walking away felt like the hardest thing I had ever done, but I knew I had to put myself first. As I headed to the door, I heard her voice call after me, laced with desperation. "You're making a huge mistake." I paused, torn between the love I still felt for her and the pain she had inflicted. "No, Jessica. The mistake was falling for your lies. I deserve someone who won't treat me like this." With that, I walked out, closing the door behind me, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion. I couldn't escape the echoes of our fight replaying in my mind. Friends reached out, offering support, but I felt like a shell of my former self. I spent hours trying to comprehend how everything had fallen apart so quickly. During this time, I realized that I needed to focus on myself, to find my own footing again. I started going to the gym, pouring my energy into working out and trying to reclaim my identity. I began spending time with friends more often, rediscovering hobbies I had let slide while I focused on our marriage. It was hard, though. Every time my phone buzzed or I heard a car pull into the driveway, my heart would leap, hoping it was Jessica wanting to talk or apologize. But those hopes were crushed every time I remembered the conversations we had, the way she had dismissed my pain. I had to remind myself that it was better this way, that I was reclaiming my life. Eventually, I decided it was time to take the next step. I had to formally initiate a separation. I wasn't sure how Jessica would react, but I knew I had to face her one last time. I needed closure to solidify my decision to move forward without her, whatever that looked like. I felt anxious as I prepared to meet her again, knowing this could be a defining moment in my life. I still loved her, but I was learning that love alone wasn't enough to sustain a relationship. It had to be built on mutual respect, trust, and honesty. As I steeled myself for the conversation ahead, I wondered whether Jessica would finally see the truth or if I was simply wasting my breath. But I had to try. I had to make her understand that it was time to let go. As I walked toward the house, I felt a mix of dread and determination. Whatever happened next would define my path forward, and I was ready to face it head-on. Walking back into the house felt surreal. The place that had once been a sanctuary now felt more like a prison, a reminder of all the love and betrayal that lingered in the air. I took a deep breath before stepping inside, bracing myself for whatever conversation awaited me. Jessica was in the living room, scrolling through her phone, her posture relaxed and her face devoid of any hint of concern or awareness of the storm brewing. I felt a pang of nostalgia as I remembered the days when we could sit together and talk for hours without a care in the world. But those days felt like a distant memory now, buried under the weight of betrayal. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked up, her expression unreadable. For a brief moment I saw a flicker of something in her eyes, perhaps guilt, but it vanished almost instantly. "Hey," she replied, glancing back at her phone. I could tell she was stalling, perhaps hoping I wouldn't bring up the elephant in the room. But I wasn't going to let that happen. "Can we talk, like really talk?" I asked, my heart racing. I needed this conversation to be honest and straightforward, devoid of the games we had been playing for weeks. She raised an eyebrow, but I saw her set her phone down as if bracing for impact. "Sure, what's on your mind?" She leaned back, crossing her arms defensively. It didn't escape my notice that she was preparing for a fight rather than an open discussion. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "I've been doing a lot of thinking since our last conversation. I realize that this relationship has taken a toll on me, and I can't keep pretending like everything is fine when it's clearly not. Are we really going to have this conversation again?" She snapped, irritation creeping into her voice. "I thought we already established that you're overreacting." "No," I said firmly, cutting her off. "I'm not overreacting. I found your messages, Jessica. I know what's going on. You need to own up to your actions instead of deflecting onto me." Her expression hardened, and I felt another wave of frustration rise within me. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. Can't you see that you're the one pushing me away?" "Pushing you away?" I echoed, incredulous. "You've been the one choosing to step out on our marriage. I'm trying to salvage what's left here, but you're too busy playing the victim." For a moment, we both fell silent, the air thick with unspoken words. I could feel the tension crackling between us, like a live wire about to snap. Finally, she threw up her hands in exasperation. "Fine, I'll admit that I've made mistakes, but you've contributed to this mess too. You're so wrapped up in your own insecurities that you can't even see how suffocating you've become." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. It felt unfair and twisted, the way she was blaming me for her actions. "I'm not trying to suffocate you. I just wanted to be your partner, to support you, but instead you chose to betray me. Maybe if you had been more attentive, I wouldn't have felt the need to seek excitement elsewhere," she retorted, her tone rising again. I wanted to feel alive, and you made me feel like I was just a housewife, not your wife." The accusation hung in the air, and I felt a wave of despair wash over me. "So, you thought cheating was the answer? You thought sleeping with someone else would fix our issues?" Jessica looked away, avoiding my gaze. "It's not just about that, it's about feeling trapped. I didn't think you would take it this seriously." "Seriously?" I shot back, incredulous. "You thought this was just a phase or a little fun. It's infidelity, Jessica. It's betrayal." At that, she sighed, running a hand through her hair in frustration. "Okay, fine, I messed up. But can't we just get past this? I can change, I swear." The desperation in her voice stirred something in me. I wanted to believe her. But the trust had been shattered, like glass splintered into a million pieces. "You say that now, but what's to stop you from doing it again? Words mean nothing when your actions tell a different story." "So what do you want from me?" she asked, her tone softening slightly. "I'm sorry. What more can I do to prove that I want to make this work?" I paused, feeling the weight of her question. It would have been easy to let my anger guide me, but I knew I had to be honest with myself and her. "I need time to think. I can't just forget what you did, and I'm not sure if I can trust you again." Her eyes widened, and for a brief moment I thought I saw genuine fear. "You're considering leaving me, aren't you?" "I'm not saying that yet," I replied, my voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "But I can't keep living in this state of limbo. I need to put myself first for once. I deserve to be with someone who values me." Her expression shifted, and I could see the realization dawning on her. "You're really serious about this, aren't you? You're willing to throw everything away." "It's not about throwing it away. It's about recognizing that we've lost what we had. If there's a chance to rebuild, it has to start with honesty and respect, things that have been absent from our relationship for far too long." I could see the flicker of understanding in her eyes, but it was too late. The trust had been shattered, and we were left picking up the pieces. I felt a twinge of sadness, knowing that this could be the end of something beautiful, but I had to prioritize my own well-being. "I just need space," I concluded, my voice firm. "I need time to figure out what I want and whether this can be salvaged. I can't keep doing this dance with you." Jessica stared at me, her expression a mix of anger, sadness, and realization. I could see she was grappling with what this meant for us. "Fine," she said finally, her voice low. "I'll give you space. But don't expect me to just sit here and wait forever." As I turned to leave the room, I felt a swell of emotions: relief, sadness, uncertainty. I had taken a step I had needed to take for so long, but I also knew that the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. I didn't know what the future held, but I made a promise to myself that I would keep moving forward, no matter how difficult the path became. Whether it meant finding a way to rebuild or letting go for good, I was committed to discovering my own happiness, even if it meant stepping out of the shadows of our fractured marriage. As I walked away, there was a sense of finality in the air, a recognition that things would never be the same, and a quiet determination to reclaim my life, one step at a time. In the weeks that followed, life felt a little surreal. I had embarked on a solitary journey, navigating the aftermath of my decision while trying to piece together a sense of self that hadn't been tied to Jessica. Every morning was a reminder of the choice I had made, a choice to prioritize my own needs and feelings, to stop being a spectator in my own life. Jessica and I had settled into a mundane routine, one that included brief, awkward exchanges and the occasional lingering silence. I had moved into the spare bedroom, a makeshift barricade against the emotional fallout that had become our home. It felt strange to walk past her during the day, and we both seemed to act like ghosts in each other's presence, avoiding deeper conversations whenever possible. I spent most of my time outside the house. I joined a local gym, signed up for a few classes, and even revisited hobbies I had sacrificed for the sake of our marriage. My friends had rallied around me, providing the support I desperately needed. They would invite me out for drinks or encourage me to join them for weekend adventures. Slowly, I began to rediscover my identity outside of being Jessica's husband. Still, the emotional toll of the separation weighed heavily on me. There were days when I felt strong and empowered, convinced I was making the right choice. But there were also moments when loneliness crept in, and I would catch myself reminiscing about the good times we had shared. It was a confusing mix of feelings, love entangled with betrayal, longing mixed with relief. One evening, as I was unwinding, after a workout, I received a text from Jessica. My heart skipped a beat when I saw her name flash across my screen. I hesitated before opening the message. "Can we talk?" It read simply. My initial instinct was to ignore it, but the curiosity gnawing at me won out and I found myself typing a response. "What do you want to talk about?" There was a pause and then she replied, "Can we meet in the park, just us?" I felt a surge of anxiety at her request. Meetings had always been fraught with tension between us, but I also knew that avoiding the conversation wouldn't solve anything. I agreed, my heart racing as I prepared for what lay ahead. When I arrived at the park, the sun was setting, casting a warm glow over everything. Jessica was sitting on a bench, her posture tense and her eyes scanning the ground. As I approached, I noticed how different she looked, more vulnerable, less the confident woman I had been arguing with. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady as I took a seat beside her. "Hey," she replied quietly, her gaze still focused. On the grass, there was an awkward silence as we both tried to find the right words. "I've been thinking a lot about us," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper, "about everything that's happened." I braced myself for whatever was about to come next, and she looked up, her eyes meeting mine with a sincerity I hadn't seen in a long time. "I know I messed up. I hurt you, and I'm truly sorry for that. I've been doing a lot of soul searching, and I realize how selfish I was." Her words caught me off guard. There was an authenticity in her tone that I hadn't expected. "I thought I was seeking independence, but I see now that I was just running away from the problems we needed to face together," she continued. "Running away doesn't solve anything, though," I pointed out, feeling a mix of frustration and curiosity. "You've made choices that have consequences. I can't overlook that." "I know," she replied, her voice trembling slightly, "but I want to make things right. I want to prove to you that I can change, that I can be the wife you need me to be." I studied her, searching for signs that this wasn't just another empty promise. "How can I trust you? How do I know this isn't just another attempt to placate me?" She sighed deeply, running a hand through her hair. "I get it. I've given you so many reasons to doubt me, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild that trust. I just need you to give me a chance." The sincerity in her voice pierced through my defenses. "But trust isn't something that can be rebuilt overnight." I struggled to process my feelings. "I don't know if I can go back to how things were," I admitted. "There's a part of me that's still angry, that feels betrayed. It's hard to imagine us moving forward." "I understand," she said softly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But I want to work on this. I'm willing to put in the effort to go to counseling, to communicate more openly. I want us to be stronger than we ever were." Her vulnerability stirred something in me. I wanted to believe her, to find a way to mend what had been broken, but the road ahead felt daunting. "I need time to think about it," I said finally, my voice steady. "I'm not ready to make any promises." Jessica nodded, her expression shifting from hope to resignation. "I get it. Just know that I'm here whenever you're ready to talk." As we sat there, the weight of our conversation lingered in the air. I thought about the roller coaster of emotions I had experienced: anger, sadness, disillusionment. But now, as we confronted the possibility of rebuilding, a flicker of hope ignited within me. After parting ways, I walked home feeling a mix of confusion and optimism. Maybe there was a chance for us to heal. Maybe I could learn to trust her again, but I knew it would take time, effort, and a commitment from both sides. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized that I had a choice to make. I could choose to let the past define my future, or I could take a leap of faith into the unknown. The decision would not come easy, but I understood that I had to prioritize my own well-being while grappling with the complexities of our relationship. In that moment, I resolved to approach this new chapter with caution, but also with an open heart. It was a delicate balance, but perhaps there was still a path forward, even if it meant navigating the rocky terrain of forgiveness and healing together. The days that followed our conversation in the park were a strange mix of hope and uncertainty. Jessica and I started communicating more openly, addressing the issues that had driven a wedge between us. She took my concerns seriously, and I could see genuine effort in her attempts to reconnect. But every time I opened my heart, a part of me still held back, fearful of being hurt again. We made plans to go to couples counseling, which was a step I hadn't anticipated but was willing to embrace. It felt like a new beginning, even amidst the shadows of our past. The first session was awkward as we both navigated the unfamiliar territory. We were asked to share our feelings, which felt like peeling back layers of wounds that had scabbed over but were still fresh under the surface. As the therapist guided us, I began to see glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with. Jessica spoke about her insecurities and how it hadn't been about me but about her struggle to find fulfillment. It struck me how much we had both been pushing each other away while desperately wanting connection. I started to share my feelings too, opening up about the pain I had endured, the betrayal I felt. "You have to understand how deeply you hurt me," I said, my voice tinged with emotion. "It's not something I can just forget. It lingers like a shadow." The therapist nodded, guiding us through the conversation as we learned to listen and validate each other's feelings. I saw the tears in Jessica's eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I felt we were on the same team again. The sessions became a ritual for us, a safe space to confront the deep-seated issues that had plagued our relationship. We learned communication skills, how to express our needs without blaming each other. It wasn't easy. There were moments of tension and anger, but we began to navigate those waters together. As weeks turned into months, I found myself slowly opening up again. It was a delicate process, but I realized that healing was not linear. Some days were full of laughter and connection. Others were reminders of the hurt we had both experienced. Still, I began to see changes in Jessica. She was more present, more attentive. The playful banter we once had started to return, and we found joy in small moments again, sharing meals, going for walks, reminiscing about the things we loved about each other. One evening, as we sat on the patio watching the sunset, I turned to her, feeling a warmth settle in my chest. "You know I'm proud of how far we've come," I said, my voice sincere. "It's been hard, but I feel like we're finally rebuilding something real." Jessica smiled, a genuine light glimmering in her eyes. "I'm grateful for another chance. I know I messed up, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving to you that I can be better." I believed her, not because of grand gestures, but because of the small changes I had witnessed over time. "I appreciate that. Just know that trust will take time to rebuild completely. It's a process, and I'm willing to work at it if you are." "I am," she reaffirmed, reaching out to hold my hand. "I want us to be stronger than before." As we sat there hand in hand, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had learned so much during this journey, not just about Jessica, but about myself. I had discovered the importance of self-worth and the necessity of setting boundaries. I realized that love wasn't simply about being together. It was about being honest, vulnerable, and supportive of one another's growth. The experience had reshaped my understanding of relationships. I knew that while challenges could tear a couple apart, they could also forge a deeper connection if both partners were willing to put in the work. Reflecting on the past, I understood that the pain and betrayal had brought clarity, forcing me to confront what I truly wanted. I had faced the darkness and emerged with a renewed sense of purpose. Whether it would lead to a long-lasting reconciliation or a parting of ways, I was ready to embrace whatever the future held. As I looked into Jessica's eyes, I felt a glimmer of optimism. We were two imperfect people trying to navigate an imperfect world. Together, maybe we could find a way forward, not just as a couple but as individuals committed to being better for ourselves and each other. I smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "Here, to new beginnings," I said, and she smiled back, her eyes sparkling as she nodded in agreement. And in that moment, amidst the fading light of the day, I felt the weight of our past begin to lift, replaced by the promise of what could be. We were still on a journey, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the road ahead.